Okay, so you know those days. I've said this every once in a while, but the coffee is just on point. Well, that is one of those days for me. It's just, everything just is perfect. Tastes perfect. It's going down perfect. And yummo. Okay, try to get this going so I can see people um, who's on here. Say good morning if I don't. Say good morning to you. I've been trying to get on live here, and for some reason or another, it doesn't show me who's on here. So say good morning, please, on Facebook Live if you're here. Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. Um, yeah, so coffee on point, drinking my water. Make sure you stay hydrated if you drink coffee. Lots of coffee, lots of hydration needed. Um, Yesterday's was an interesting day. Okay. And I know that I keep saying, we're in interesting times. People are in a panic, but I went out and literally got attacked by some people. So here's the deal. Like, we all have our beliefs about what's going on. Good morning, Minute Ike, and about what's going on in terms of, this whole pandemic and whatever. I literally don't talk about it. I don't have conversations about it. I don't put on the news. I don't even know what's going on, really, honestly. And I have my own thought process about what, life and how we exist in this life and what it means. And everybody does. Everybody has their opinion. Everybody has their ideas about what's going on in the world right now. And the one thing that I'm noticing about humanity, which is just mind boggling to me, is the inability to have compassion for those around us or to be kind to one another. That really, right there, is the root. It's the real sickness. And I think people have talked about it before. It's the sickness that dwells within us because it says, hey, you're different than me. Hey, it's okay for me to treat you like dog poop and be okay with it because we're not the same, but we are. We're all interconnected. And if we looked at the web of life and we understood that everything impacts one another, everything impacts, it doesn't matter if it's words, whatever it is, that impacts everything else around us. And there's a particular way to engage it, right? Some people are so cruel, right? To the point where someone called me stupid and inconsiderate. And I said, oh, really? Okay, fine. I'm stupid. I'm inconsiderate. I don't know what to tell you. Fine, call me stupid. It's okay. But the mere act of just saying those words or uttering these words, if there is something that impacts another individual, and I think this is the problem, is that people don't know how to engage, good morning, Betty, with individuals. People don't know how to communicate their concerns. So if, good morning, Jennifer, someone says you're stupid, well, why are you calling me stupid, first of all? What in your mind makes you think that you're superior to me, that you would call me stupid? Because there's a couple of things going on there. One says I'm superior to you, I'm smarter, I make better choices. Two, it says I am unworthy and not good enough, so I have to shame and make people look small so that I can look better. So there's a couple of things happening there. If an individual, right, if you're feeling like this, it's the way that we engage people is super important. How are you engaging people? I mean, in asking yourself, I mean, it's up to you. If you want to call people stupid, there's times where I'm in traffic, right? Because I'm not perfect, I'm human. But like, I'll be like, oh, that idiot or whatever. And I laugh about it because I know that in my heart of hearts, it's just not, it's not real. It's just my ego, acting. But I think as people want to point fingers and not realize that it's the ego at play and we all have it. And that we can be kind to one another when we're trying to express or articulate our concerns to individuals. But that's not typically what we're seeing happening, right? We see people naming, shaming, blaming, hurting, harming other individuals. Good morning, Evie. Good morning, Michael. And so what happened yesterday is I got called an idiot, right? And stupid and whatever, inconsiderate. And all because I didn't have my mask on outside. Well, first of all, I'm not near you. Secondly, I don't have to have it on outside. Thank you very much. I like to breathe in natural air as an asthmatic, right? The policies that are in place, fine. I will follow your policy inside or whatnot, just for the sake of you not getting in trouble, whatever it is, blah, so on and so forth. Anywho, it was just the way that people articulated their concern rather than being kind about it and saying, look, I'm really concerned because blah, 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 blah. Would you mind doing this, right? Or would you mind putting this on? No, to downright just say, you're stupid, right? I would never do that to a person. So I just said, you know what? God forgive him. God forgive me, because part of me wanted to lash back and say something, because that's the ego at play, right? So for me, I was like, forgive them for, so Jesus Christ, right? He's a really, the Jesus Christ, whether you believe in Jesus Christ or not. So I'll say this, for people that don't believe in Jesus Christ, he was an amazing character. Read about him. For those of you who believe in Jesus Christ, he was an amazing man. He had some amazing things to say that I feel are super critical. And they're very simple, very easy things, right? Forgive them, for they know not what they do. That simple. It's that simple. Because why? Because we're forgiving ourselves, right? For the judgments that we're impressing upon them. But we're also forgiving them for the judgments and impressions that they're placing upon us. So the forgive them, for they know not what they do is not a one-sided thing. It's two-sided. You're also forgiving yourself, right? Because my natural reaction was, let me lash back out. Let my ego take over and totally devour, right? Or say something that's smart mouth, rather than to reflect upon it. And this is what I was talking about with the dark emotions, when the anger comes out. I even talked about yesterday, the anger, because I could feel this sense of something rise up within me that wanted to attack back, that wanted to say, hey, you're wrong. Who are you to tell me? That wanted to engage. And I just said, you know what? Fine. Yes, I'm stupid. Thank you. I appreciate that. Awesome. But I didn't retaliate. And the fact of the matter is that if we could just exhibit kindness to one another instead of throwing stones at one another, right? Like I put a quote the other day, like, people are throwing stones like they live in a brick house, you know? Like, everybody lives in a glass house, and everybody, you know, has their days where they're not 100%. And who are we to say, hey, let me point the finger at you because you're wrong? It's easier to place blame on people and to point fingers at people and make people wrong for what they do. And literally what it does is it gives us a sense of self-worth and superiority, but it's a false sense of self-worth and superiority. It's not a true sense of if we had poise, and we had, and for me, it's the approach. If someone approached me with true, right, intention for kindness and concern and said, hey, this and this and this and this is why, then I take that differently. The impact is like, oh, okay, I understand. But if someone says, you're this, you're that, the other, and they start name dropping and calling me names, I'm thinking, like, what are we? We're playing on the playground in elementary school now, and now we're going to look superior in front of everybody and make other people look like they're beneath you or beneath everybody else. I mean, that was what public flogging did, right? We had these eras where people would publicly flog, and that was part of, like, the era, right, with Jesus Christ. Or if we looked back in the ancient days where they would stone people to death, right? For what? When they themselves were not perfect. We're never going to be perfect. We live in a three-dimensional time space where we cannot be 100%. We're perfectly perfect in our own right, don't get me wrong, and we are an extension of God, but we're not the complete picture. Okay? Good morning, Benny Wealth. So the approach that we take and the results that we get based on that approach are significant and impactful. So people don't remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel. Right? And if we're looking at Benny Wealth, I'm thinking you're probably a leadership person because you have the word wealth in there. I'm thinking you talk about a lot of leadership stuff. That's typically what wealth. At least when I see wealth, I think about leadership, right? People talking about leadership. But people, and you'll probably know this quote, but people remember how you make them feel. They don't give two shits what you give them. I'll be honest, you can give them gifts and everything, but if you make them feel like shit, they're not going to care about the gift. So it's hard because there are times where we have a lot going on, and sometimes it's a Freudian slip where we just come out and we say things to people and we're like, dang, why did I say it that way? But right now is an opportunity for us to express kindness in the biggest kind of way. And it's it's not going to be the easiest because right now everybody is totally, their senses, every all their nerves, everything is just inside waiting to be triggered. And you could be the person that they throw the trigger at. And how you respond is important, right? Good morning, Vinny. The response to that. How do we respond when there's somebody throws a trigger at us, right? We want to get our guns and start triggering back and saying blah blah and then fight. And we just have these fights. And again, I'm good, how are you? We have this disconnect between, and this separation again. It's finding the harmony within you, right? And how do we do that in the face of somebody calling us whatever, stupid or dumb or flipping us off, or telling us that we're not good enough or whatever it is, right? The rejection and all this. So how you treat others is important. So I'll tell you this. So after I got called these names, right, there's more to the story. Okay, so they refused to sell me groceries even though I followed their policy. Trader Joe's, I'm gonna just say it. I just might as well just tell the story. Why not? I told them as soon as I get inside, I will put a mask on in your store. I understand that's your policy. So I did, and I have my ideas about that. I'm not going to get into the whole politics of that. I just followed their thing, and then the authority, the manager, tells me, "No, you can't buy your groceries. I'm not letting you." And he literally didn't let me. And I said, "Oh, really? You're going to deny me food when I followed your policy? I don't understand why." So he said no, and I just said, okay, that's fine. If someone calls me stupid, I will be like, ignore it or prove myself not stupid, right, Vinny? So for me, I just didn't pay attention to it. I'm like, whatever. It's the cruelty behind it. It's the act of anger that I was talking about yesterday. The dark emotions and anger comes out in trying to make somebody look little, or belittling somebody, or making them feel like they're superior, or that you're not worthy, or that you're small, or that whatever it is that it ignited in the individual to say those or utter those words, or for the individual to say, no, you can't buy groceries here. I'm like, great, I hope that you can sleep at night, right? Especially when I'm here to feed my face and I followed your policy. I'm like, okay, cool, that's fine. I said, let he who live without sin cast the first stone. I said, I'm glad that you're perfect, right? That's all I said. I'm glad that you think you're perfect, and that what you're doing is just here. That's it. Have a blessed day, sir. And I walked out. Now, here's the deal. The individual, right, that did this was the authority for what? To what? To demean? Good morning, Mike. Cheers. To what? To I don't know. I don't know what the individuals. What the heck? Trader Joe's had no right to refuse to sell you food. I think I will be calling them and giving them a little piece of my mind. Not that it matters. Thanks, Betty. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, they denied me food, which is crazy. So that tells you what kind of time we're living in, right? We're living in a time where individuals literally feel like they can sort of rob you of your right to your human rights or your human necessities to purchase food, even when you're following, right? Even when you're following the policy, right? So it's just interesting how this world has sort of the dark emotions have showed up and they don't know what to do with them, and someone gives someone a little bit of authority and they overstep their boundaries and forget about the humanity of an individual. They forget about the kindness and compassion that drives humanity to what it is. Denying you food proves how devil humans are. Exactly. So, do I forgive? Yeah. And I think I saw it in his eyes that there was some remorse, but I think that if he would have backed down, he probably would have looked small in front of his other employees, and he, rather than do the right thing, he wanted to look good. Rather than do what was righteous, he wanted to look good. And I understood that. And I said, "Okay." And I got his name and I said, okay. And I was like, well, I'm going to write in to Trader Joe's, to their corporate office, and let them know. But, am I going to do it? I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. But then, right, so I'm thinking, God, it's crazy how humanity has come to this, right? How it's come to the fact that people would deny someone their basic human rights of food. But now let's look at the other issue, right? Because I could be mad at this person and I can say this and that and the other. No, I said, God, forgive me for any ill thoughts I may have had on this man. I bless him and his family. I forgive him and I forgive myself. And I just walked out and said, okay, I know that there are other stores. But here's the deal. We're at a time right now that if they start denying people food, think about this, that they're denying food, not even for me doing anything wrong, okay? I didn't do anything wrong, but yet they denied me food. Think about when a time might come where they deny you food because you don't want to do what they think you should do. Like they own your body. And now they're saying, well, now you can't have food. Now what? Now what are we stuck with? We don't know how to grow our food. We don't know how to maintain ourselves in, most of us don't. I don't. I wished I did. So then what do? We go to Michael Fathauer and we eat off the land of weeds. But already we see that this ego is starting to magnify in a way that the kindness of humanity is forgotten. I'd rather look good, be right, and tell you what to do with yourself than and deny you your basic human rights of food, right? Than to do the right thing, but I want to look good. I want to look good, and I want to show that I have authority. That's the ego at play. That's all ego. They denied me food. Oh, Doreen, Trader Joe's denied me food because I didn't have my mask on outside. I was outside. I was on the phone, and I was outside their store. And then I went in, and I told them I put the mask on when I get inside. And when I went inside, I had it on, and I followed their policy. And they said, no, you can't buy groceries here today. And the guy literally stood in line. I said, you're going to deny me food? I followed your policy. And he said, no, I'm not going to sell you. So literally just denied me food completely. And you could, watch the footage. I respected their policy when I got in the store. But no, they denied me food. Literally, they turned me away. So, it's just the humanity, right? Thanks, Rick. You have a beautiful day, too. You have the right to food. You did nothing wrong. It's good that you bless him and his family. It's him who is wrong. He doesn't want to accept his mistakes so that he doesn't look small in front of his employees. It's absolutely his fault. Yeah, and so, but that's where we've come to in this whole storyline. You guys, the storyline is it's gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger. And why is it gonna get bigger? Because the ego is on blast right now. The ego is totally on blast. And our dark emotions are starting to surface. So the angry person that was outside that yelled at me and called me stupid, his ego is on blast, right? Hey, Alicia. His ego is on blast. Why? His ego's on blast because whatever fears he has, whatever's going on with him, right? rather than actually having some emotional intelligence, right? And saying, hey, look, there's there was no there was a total disconnect between the human element, right? Of this is another human being in front of me, and I'm okay with calling him stupid. I'm okay with that. I think that that's the right thing to do. And it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not going to get smaller. And that's why I started Spirit and Coffee ages ago, because I told you guys this was coming. I didn't know how it was going to play out, but I can foresee that the ego itself is it's trying to come out and express itself, but nobody has learned how to utilize their ego properly, and it's expressing itself in hate and anger. And when that comes out, when the anger comes out, that's the part that's scary, because humans are the ones who act out in anger, in frustration. We're the only ones who do it for what? Pleasure. We're the only ones who act out in anger for pleasure. And that's a scary thing. Why? Because that leads to war. That leads to all of these things. Disconnect between people, fighting amongst families, fighting amongst tribes, fighting amongst individuals, having people think that it's good to call someone stupid, and then start to what? That's what do they call it? Socially, give me the word. I can't think about it. Where they flog you and they socially embarrass you, purposefully, and then everybody starts to attack. I mean, I understand the dynamics of what is going on. I see it literally happen to me, and for what? I don't know. A lesson to teach, a lesson to understand my own internal ego and how I respond to these things. When that person called you stupid, I think, oh, it's his ego, which is her anger, never resolves the problem. Instead, it wars. Yeah, worsens it. Whenever the problem you're facing in life, it can be solved with a calm voice and a proper mind. Yeah. Hey, Poetic. Yeah. Crazy, right? It's crazy how they denied me food. Pretty interesting. Michael says, I can go anywhere without a mask, but the grocery stores, they're acting tougher as grocery stores. And some grocery stores have police in front enforcing masks. My guess is that it is on purpose. Forced compliance. Yeah. And communists are trying to reach even more control of our private property rights. So it's interesting. No, I can in 4 live 444 total engagement. What is this? Come in. Oh. Poetic. I was like, what does it say, poetic? So it's just interesting, and I support you in spirit. You're right. It's his fault. Thanks, Vinny. I appreciate that. I'll send you a screenshot on Facebook. Okay, thank you, Poetic. I appreciate it. So again, we're starting to see the result of the ego expressing itself through humanity, and it's kind of not pretty. It's not a pretty picture. It's not going to be pretty. The dark emotions, as I was talking about, are not pretty. They're not comfortable, but they're necessary. Why is it necessary? It's necessary because we are moving into a different way of viewing the world. The world will not go back to the way it was. I know people think it is, but it's not. And the reason why is because we're in a new era. We are in a new way of engaging. We know that the systems that we currently have do not work. They cannot sustain life. They cannot sustain human life. And we humans want to continue to survive. So here's the deal. We can all perish and die, and then what? Well, the earth will keep earthing, right? The planet will keep planeting. The planet will keep doing its thing. We want to survive as a human species, as a race. We're saying, how do we support our children? Why? Because we have babies, we have children, we have generations of individuals that we want to bring up. But do we want to bring them into a space of violence and lashing back, or love and kindness and compassion, and then looking at the discomforts of life and teaching them how to deal with those discomforts of life, rather than denying it, and ending up with the same storyline we've been in for century upon century upon century. We keep repeating it. It's true. History repeats itself, right? They say that. Why? Because we don't learn our lesson. We're not learning our lesson. And that yesterday, what happened was a result of that. We're not learning. We're not learning compassion and kindness to people. We're not learning how to deal with our emotional states of being. We're not learning how to deal with the dark emotions of anger, frustration, isolation. We want to ostracize people. We want to, so we can feel worthy, we have to put a bunch of people here and say they're bad and point fingers at them and throw rocks at them to the point of murder, to the point of killing. That's what they did in the past. That's what it got to. It got to the point where people would literally say stone them, kill them for their evil ways. What were they doing that was so evil that they themselves hadn't done? They were hypocrites, right? Became hypocrites. Distribution of the food supply chain at the personal level. Yeah, and it's so, yes, be kind. My sound went silent. It's a lot deeper than emotional belief and metaphysical. Yes, we should be kind and polite, peaceful, nice to everybody. Sorry, I didn't see that. Hi, Wise Mac, I didn't see you on here. Emotional belief. Yeah. And so again, understanding how to support our emotional states of being, understanding how to alchemize that. We're at the base level. And yes, it's deeper, Wise Mackie, I agree, but people don't know the basics. How can they understand these deeper concepts if basic understanding of emotional intelligence and understanding how to alchemize their dark emotions is not even there? They don't even understand how to do it. Why? Because they haven't been taught. Not, it doesn't make people wrong, it just means we haven't been taught. So what do? I teach. What do you guys do? Teach yourselves. Learn. Go understand. What is emotional intelligence? It's a super critical part of the piece of the puzzle that has been sort of ripped from us. And now we don't know how to handle the anger as it arises within us. We don't know how to handle the isolation or the rejection. Yesterday, I was rejected. That's what happened. It said, you are not one of us. That's basically it. You are not one of us. And so because you're not one of us, I need you to go. Because you don't fit in the mold that we think you should fit in, you need to go. And on the one end, I could say, wow, that's awful. I'm isolated. No, rather than that, I pray and say, forgive them. They don't understand. They don't even know. There's a bigger picture at play. They don't get it. They can't get it. They're at the base level of understanding when it comes to emotional states of being and our natural instinct to connect as a human being from person to person. How do we connect? How do we interconnect with one another? Let's see. Having control on thoughts and emotions is important. They have to get past the programming, conditioning they'd want to let go of. Yeah. And that's why these teachings of the dark emotions is so critical. And of course, I'm going to actually, as I talk about them, I'm going to experience them. That's usually what happens. They start to surface up in the real world. It's like, well, hey, try this on if you're going to talk about anger and frustration, and how are you going to handle it? How am I going to handle it? I wanted to lash out. That's the natural reaction. I wanted to say something and fight. And no, I'm not going to I'm going to set boundaries and I'm going to state my opinion, but I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to fight. I'm going to speak from a place of personal responsibility, not from a place of blame and shame, which is different. There's a distinction there. And when we do that, we get results in our life. So here's the end of the story. So after that, I go to another grocery store, of course, where I'm totally accepted and everything is fine. And they didn't get mad at me because I didn't have my mask on while I was outside. Um, and I put it on and went into the grocery store and followed their policy in the store, right? Out of respect, because I know the employees get paid whatever. Okay. So did all that, come out. Then I go to get an oil change in my car. And the nicest man ever. And this makes me appreciate the people. This is where my gratitude comes in, to appreciate the individuals who show kindness, who show compassion, who show that they're grateful. I go to get my car done, and this man was just so nice. He was the sweetest guy at Jiffy Lube. And he was like, ma'am, he's like, I hope you're having a great day. I said, well, I'm having an interesting day. And then I told him what happened. He goes, why are people so mean? I said, I don't know. I don't understand. And he goes, you're the customer. Shouldn't they just love you? And I said, that's not what happened. I said, I don't understand it. He goes, well, we appreciate you here at Jiffy Lube and we want you to come back. And I was like, wow, thank you. But that little thing, right? But it's natural to feel negative emotions. Absolutely. That's what we're reading. Wise Mackie is I'm reading Healing Through the Dark Emotions, the wisdom of grief, fear, and despair, and how to not overcome them, but how to work with them, how to alchemize the dark emotions into positive reactions. So of course I'm going to be experiencing it. But so the guy at Jiffy Lube, totally amazing, totally sweetheart, and I was just like, thank you. And it was like a cherry on top to all of the craziness. But I don't know that I would have had that experience at Jiffy Lube had I not forgiven the guy, right, at the other place. I would have walked around with a henyo on my face or upset, and they would have felt my energy, and then who knows how they would have responded. But no, I dealt with it. I breathed it in. I forgave, right? And then gratitude showed up, right? Forgiveness, gratitude, and love, the secret sauce to life. Secret, I'm telling you, it's the secret sauce. Authorize no control or judgment. Yeah, and so I forgave, moved on, and then boom, I showed up some beautiful individual who was completely kind and made me cry, because it's like there are still those people that get the human part of this, get the human interaction, get that we are human at the end of the day, and that we have emotions and feelings, and that we can recognize that within each other. Everything is about what you want to manifest. So yeah, so again, dealing with the dark emotions, understanding that we right now are in a phase of the dark night of the soul, meaning that the ego is on blast and it's going to magnify as things get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay? So, how you engage it, how you approach it is what's important. You can't control what other people do, right? That's not the point. The point is what's happening internally in you, and how are you overcoming these emotional states of being that are uncomfortable. They're not going anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere. Not in this time space. We don't get rid of it. We learn to utilize it. Okay? For our growth, for the greater good. Listening to yourself. Yes. So, girl, I had a lot of listening to do to myself yesterday, because my listening was like on blast. My natural reaction was not to say love. I wanted to attack, and I said, no, Natalie, you don't get to attack. Breathe. Just breathe. And forgive. And that was, in the midst, when you're in it, it sounds beautiful, but when it's happening, it's not as easy, right? The practice of it just becomes this thing where you're like, oh, I just remember I'm going to forgive. And how do I forgive when I don't feel like forgiving right now? I want to fight. And then I went to the gym and worked out really hard. So that helped let all that steam off of me, right? And then I allowed myself to rest today. But it's getting crazier. So as stories arise, I will share them with you guys. It's pretty interesting. But I pray. I pray for those people. And I hope that they can really dive into what's going on within them that would allow them to treat another individual that way. That's what I pray. Hopefully they can figure it out, because it's only going to help them, not harm them. So there you have it, the crazy life as we go through the dark emotions. And thank you guys for engaging so much. I think this was a hot topic. Apparently, people are feeling the burn. I rarely go out or do anything or watch TV. I don't know what's going on in popular media, but I experienced something yesterday. So apparently, others are perhaps experiencing this, you know. But be kind to people, okay? You don't know what they're going through. If somebody, let's say, for instance, someone doesn't have a mask on and it's concerning to you because you work with elderly people and blah, 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 blah. There's an approach, right, to an individual that was like, ma'am, you know, I work with elderly people and just out of concern for them, do you think it'd be okay? You know, it's just the way you approach it, right? It's the approach. You're going to get good, better results that way too. People don't care what you know until they know that you care, number one. And number two, people don't remember what you give them or the material. They remember how you make them feel. How did you make them feel? That's what they remember. How did you make them feel? And that's important. So if you care, hopefully you do. I think you guys care. You guys are love bugs. So go out and be love bugs, okay? Kindness. Spread kindness to the world, man. We need a whole lot of kindness out there. Whew. I'm about to go wrap my arms, the whole world in my arms, and just hug and cry and love it up and say, man, I hope we can get through this. And we will. Okay, so I love you guys. Have a fantastical day. And of course, I will be seeing you guys tomorrow. Mwah. Thank you for joining today. And thanks for the interaction. I totally appreciate it. And Wise Mackie, contact me so you can come